As far as the entire tournament, here are the updated odds at ESPN BET. UConn still the betting favorite, approaching odds on. There's Purdue and Tennessee right behind them, and NC State 30-1, the Cinderella, to cut down the nets. So I am curious, Dallin and Joe, and I'll start with you, Fortenbaugh. When you see those updated odds, and you've watched now a few weeks of the tournament, who's the biggest threat to UConn?
I don't know if they're necessarily the biggest threat.
Okay.
Because as I've been sorting through this, I'm trying to look at pricing and try to figure out where we might see an angle. The first name that jumps out is Tennessee at plus 750, mainly because if you believe they can get past Purdue, they're going to be a favorite in the next matchup against either NC State definitely or Duke most likely. So at plus 750, if you like him to get past Purdue, I think that's the pricing you want to attack. In terms of the toughest matchup, I mean, they've just been a freight train. Like, I want to find a reason why someone's going to take UConn out. I can find reasons to bet against UConn because prices are getting too high, but in the futures market right now, there's not anyone that really pops outside of that.
I think I could leave the show now. That was pretty much my analysis of the entire thing right there with Tennessee.
I can call college basketball games.
I do think the only thing I would add to everything you said is Tennessee for me, because of what we'll talk about the Purdue matchup a little later. You have to have balance. You have to be, because that UConn team, being a part of being a wagon, they can play in a half-court game, full-court game. They can outscore you. They can defend and grind you to death. They got a shot blocker and go on the inside. They got guys who make shots outside and great point guard play. They got it all. So the team that's going to beat them has to be balanced. That's why Illinois' challenge today, as much as they can score, they can't really defend. When you look at the bottom of the team coming out the bottom of the region, I think you're going to have some holes with Clemson and/or Alabama as well. On the other side, Tennessee is the most balanced team.
Yep.
I think they have the most defensively. They have the ability to score. They have an elite playmaker in Dalton Connect, and they have some big bodies in the interior that can battle.
I'm curious because the odds would say the biggest threat is Purdue. And Purdue has a singular talent that can take over games as Zach Edey has done. Dallin, I want to come right back to you. Why it's not Purdue in your estimation?
I feel like people just now your bias plays into this thing. As good as Braden Smith has been and Foster Loyer's been at different times, they still, I think, if you have guards like Tennessee today that can get up in you and stop the service to Edey, to continue to use a soccer term, if you make it hard to get him his touches, and remember, these teams played earlier in the year. You see him once, you understand what they can do, try to take away certain things. Granted, Matt Painter's going to counter what Rick Barnes does. It's going to be a great coaching chess match, but can you affect those guards? Right. And I do think this team they playing now with Tennessee, with Connect now, his role fully defined. The other transfers they have, Gainey and others, fully defined in Tennessee. They weren't when they played in November. Purdue was in a much different place. So I think Tennessee is the team that can beat them, and I think that as good as Purdue is, I think their guards may be a little bit of a challenge.
I'm stubborn. I'm literally stubborn. Like, I'd love to make the joke. I'd love to say I've been able to get past the biases you bring up, but every time I look at Purdue, I'm like, nah, I just don't buy it. And it's not just what happened last year. It's Painter's history of struggling. Right. And this team continues to come out and put people behind the woodshed and then beat them down behind that woodshed. I should be buying in at some point, but I feel like by the time I do, I'm going to end up mushing them. So ultimately, I'm in a spot where it's like, I'm all twisted up like a pretzel. That's why I'm playing totals.
I like where your head's at. Real quick with Edey, too, with the singular talent, if he does pick up fouls, as we saw in the Nebraska loss and other games, the whole game changes.
Biases are going to get smashed because either Rick Barnes or Matt Painter are going to be in a Final Four.
I'm doomed either way.
Speaking of those Huskies, the first regional final tonight sees Illinois getting a first crack at taking out the defending champs. The Huskies 8.5-point favorites, total sitting at 154.5. So, Joe, do we see another UConn blowout?
I don't think so. I like Illinois here a lot. I would take the points. I think these UConn lines are getting out of control. UConn deserves all the respect in the world. This isn't anti-UConn. We're talking about pricing here. 8.5 is a monster number. Let's go back 15 days ago. UConn is in the Big East tournament playing St. John's on a neutral. 9.5 is the spread. 9.5. They didn't even cover that game. That doesn't really matter. But now, 15 days later, they look fantastic. They're playing Illinois better than St. John's, and it's a 1-point adjustment to 8.5. I don't see it. I like Illinois. I think the offense is fantastic. I would take the points.
Okay, I've heard you throughout this tournament say don't bet an underdog because you think they can cover. Bet an underdog because you think they can win. You think Illinois can beat UConn?
I do. I think they have the capabilities of winning. Am I going to sit here and play the money line? I'd probably sprinkle on it a little bit, but I'm not of the belief that they're just going to keep it close. That offense, the way they're playing right now, UConn overvalued. The pricing sets it up nicely at plus 8.5. You look at what Illinois just did in the last game against Iowa State. They win outright as a dog, small dog, but they missed a ton of free throws in that
15
game.
to 29.
Their field goal percentage was below their season average. Their three-point percentage was below their season average. You're playing a good defense in Iowa State, so that's to be expected. But if there's some regression there, at some point, UConn's not going to have an elite game. This could be the team that takes advantage of that.
My thing of Illinois, I have a futures ticket from October, so I stand a lot.
Good
I would love to see them get to the Final Four because that would be huge. Now, the counter to that is what we're seeing from UConn is historic. Go back to the last tournament. They won every game by double digits. They're doing it again now. We've never seen a 9-game run within two different tournaments like this. That said, I said balance. Illinois' ability to sustain not playing that well defensively against Iowa State is fine because Iowa State can go through their struggles to score. It's not the same with UConn. That's my thing. I just don't know if they're going to be able to outscore them because that's how they've approached games the last 5 weeks. I love Brad Underwood's team. I like all the pieces, except on the defensive side of the ball. Can you get 3 and 4 and 5 stops consecutively to stay in this game and to beat UConn? I don't think they can beat UConn, and to maybe a little Fortenbaugh logic. Therefore, I'm laying the number with the UConn Huskies.
All right. Playing my own games against
me. I love it.
Meta move by Dallin Cup. All right, let's say hello for the first time this morning to Anita Marks. Welcome to the program here, Anita. Want to get your thoughts here. Are you with Joe or Dallin here, UConn or Illinois?
Is that even a question, Tyler? I mean, I feel like each and every show I'm on the opposite side of Joe. I am with Dallin here. This is a UConn team 12-2 against the spread. Their last 14 games. Connecticut has rolled through this tournament. They've just destroyed folks. We saw it in your graphic, right? 9 straight games that they've won by double digits. They're playing exceptional defense, only allowing 34% shooting from their opponents. Opponents are only averaging 54 points a game. Offensively, they're extremely balanced. Everybody on that team gets the rebounds. And at the end of the day, guys, they're playing in Boston. This is going to be somewhat of a home game for the Huskies. So I'll lay the points here.
All right.
Classic fade of Joe Fortenbaugh right there. All the other stuff didn't even matter, Anita. We know what you're doing.
Can't blame her at all here. Con, 3-0 ATS in the tournament, but they're not squeaking by. An 11.5-point cover margin.
People.
And they're laying big numbers.